Welcome to another unboxing from theplayersaid.com. I'm Grant. This is a gift that I received for Christmas, actually from my wife. She had asked me what I wanted, and I provided her a couple of games, and she got me this one, and I was actually really pleased. This is not a new game, unfortunately. In fact, this came out in 2009 from Worthington Games. But it's new to me, so I thought I would unbox it, especially since recently I had seen a kind of a playthrough series of videos from Joel Toppin on Twitter, and I'd already received this, but it's a game that I've always been interested in. I enjoy card-driven games. I also love games about the Vietnam War, and this is one that I read quite a bit about. So as you can see, this game is Hearts and Minds, Vietnam 1965 to 1975. Once again, it is from Worthington Games and is designed by John Ponisk. John Ponisk, we have done multiple interviews with, covering a lot of his games over the past year or year and a half. Most of those games are not out yet. A couple of them are. Revolution Road from Compass Games was one. Also have done some interviews on the Berlin Airlift, as well as a recent magazine pack-in game, Grant's Baptism by Fire, and Paper Wars. So I've had a lot of good experiences with John. I think he's a very thoughtful designer. I think he takes a different approach to most conflicts. He is not afraid to tell it like it is and to treat the conflict the way it was. So anyway, that's why I've been interested in this game, and I went ahead and got it. You can see the art on the cover is pretty interesting. It's a collage of actual photographs from the Vietnam War era. Obviously, there's a famous one where an ARVN officer is executing a VC or a suspected VC. Above that, you can see the very famous picture of LZ X-ray in the Ia Drang Valley. In 1965, starting off the hostilities. There's LBJ looking flabbergasted. So really cool looking cover. I like it a lot. I think it's very evocative and tells, in my opinion, what you're going to expect in this game. As a card-driven game, these cards are going to have at least throwbacks to actual historical events, and use those then to drive the game and incorporate those ideas and thoughts into the game. The map is an interesting looking map. We'll look at it here in just a second. Here's just a look at the back. The game is made for 2 players. Play time is 1 to 6 hours. There are 80 cards, 175 plus counters. There's some dice. Complexity is 4 out of 10, so it's very fairly easy to pick up and learn. And there's a look at some of those cards. So that's a look at the box. We'll go ahead and open it up. I once again really like that cover. I think it's really a good representation of what the Vietnam War is about. These are not counters. These are printouts of the counters, because the counters are punched and they're actually in the game in baggies, you can see. But the guy I bought this off, it's a used copy. The guy I bought it off, I think, printed this off to ensure accuracy, to make sure all the counters are there. I bought it on eBay, or my wife bought it on eBay. So you're able to kind of see. But here's a look at the counters. Obviously, once again, these are not counter sheets. This is just a printout. Really enjoy the counters. I love the use of the helmets and the insignia. Really very nice, basic, straightforward counters. One thing that I saw that was kind of interesting or funny online or on Twitter, you can see the VC counters. They're trying to show their straw hats there, and they actually look like tortilla chips. If you can get a really close-up look there, you can see the texture of the straw hat, but you know, those tortilla chips. One guy on Twitter said, man, those tortilla chips look fierce. So there's a look at the counters and what you can expect in the game. We'll go over those a little bit. I'll take a look at some of the bags. But I did want to point out the different vehicles and aircraft counters that are included. You can see there's some tanks and some helicopter gunships, some artillery, as well as some gunboats and naval units, as well as long-range bombers. So pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to this game. Here's another example. These are the administrative counters. I'll go ahead and put those aside. We'll look at those a little bit later. We'll look at the map here in a second. There are a couple of player aids. Fairly straightforward. They're not colorful. They're not artistic or anything like that, but I think they look very functional. You can see there are different CRTs and different tables for the various actions like evasion. There is the battle table there on the bottom. And these are duplicate player aids, so it's the same events or same stuff on each side. Here's a look at what is called Bush events. And you can see there are die rolls associated with those, and then something happens. So very simple player aids. They're on decent size, thicker cardstock. They're glossy, but they're not really firm. They would bend fairly easily, so I'm going to have to be careful with that. Here's the rules. Once again, really like that that art of those helmets. I think these are the NVA helmets, and then you have the US. Very, very interesting, I think. The rules are only 12 pages. If you remember, the complexity of the game is only 4 out of 10. Here's an example of a full color example of play showing an attack. So that will be very helpful as you're trying to learn the rules. Fairly dense text, not a lot of photos to show examples. Here's another one, but the rules appear to be fairly standard and look to be not overly complex. Here's a look at the sequence of play. Looks like there's 4 steps: reinforcements, hand refill, card play, and then interphase. Here's a look at those units as well. So very simple, simple rules, it appears, not too difficult. So I think this is a game that I'm going to be able to jump in and play pretty quickly. There's also a playbook with various scenarios. These are not examples of play, but these are different scenarios. And as you look here, the scenarios there, you can see there's 3, 5, 6, 7. There's about 9 different scenarios stretching from Operation Starlight in 1965 to the Easter Offensive in 72 and everything in between. The game is advertised that it goes through 1975. So I'm assuming this Easter Offensive stretches from 72 to potentially 75. But you can see they have set up for the different red counters, blue counter setup shown there. Sorry, trying to get that in the frame. Pretty simple, but it's good that they have a lot of scenarios. I think that will lend itself to a lot of replayability as well as a lot of different experiences. Pretty excited. The playbook is 8 pages as well. Here we'll go ahead and move to the map. Then we'll use the map as a backdrop. Gonna say this map is not overwhelming. Maybe possibly a little underwhelming, but I think it is functional, right? It is a map that shows what is trying to be shown. The entirety of the conflict stretching from North Vietnam at the top of the map. You can see right there, there's only a part of North Vietnam, stretching then down to Saigon and the southern coast. So pretty simple. Here's Cambodia and Laos there to the west. And you can see, you'll notice that the map is broken into 3 different zones. Actually, 4 different zones, sorry. And you're going to be able to, I would assume, cards are going to be tied to those zones. And they're going to say something. Some cards might say you can play this in zone 1, zone 3, zone 1 and 3, etc. But the map is very clear. There is no texture or anything on the map showing the differences in terrain other than color. and I don't even know. Here's an example of relief maps drawn there. Here are, you can see these are probably bases or fire bases. Here's Pleiku. So those are definitely interesting looking. But like I said, fairly nondescript, but it looks functional. Put a thing of plexiglass over top of that. It's playable, simple, and this game should be pretty interesting. So let's go ahead and look at the counters. There are 4 bags of counters. Huge counters, by the way. And this was one thing I think in the second printing, they actually reduced the size of these administrative or control counters. You can see those are big 1-inch counters. These have been clipped already by the previous owner. I will probably run my clipper over them as well, because I think they might have used a toenail clipper or fingernail clipper. I can do a better rounding on those. I'll work on that. But these are simply control markers, dual-sided control. Here you have the red and the blue. Red obviously represents the North Vietnamese and the VC, and then blue represents the US and ARVN forces. But there are quite a few of those. There are also some numbered administrative tiles or counters. I don't exactly know how those are used, but there's a look at those. Let's go ahead and look at some of the units. I'll draw out the American units first. As I talked before, they focus on the silhouettes of the helmet. This is an untried ARVN unit. You can see in the counters, frankly, aren't struck completely in the center. That's something that always bugs me, but they're playable. Won't affect their playability at all, but it would be nice. So this is their undamaged side or non-reduced side. You can see they're a 2.6. It says veteran on there, and then this is an untried. So you set up, they may say put an untried or a veteran unit there. Here's another example of a blue US unit. Same thing, untried on one side, and then you have veteran on the other. So that's pretty standard. There are also, as I talked about, as we looked at the rules, here's a tank, a US tank. It does not have a reduced side, so it looks like it's a single step unit. And that's kind of a look at the US units. I'll go ahead and put a couple there on the board as I pull out the North Vietnamese units. Looks like the veteran undamaged NVA units are a darker red, kind of a maroon color. Ooh, that one's not struck very well. It's very off-centered. And then the untried NVA units are, I would say, a salmon color or maybe even pink. But you can see there's a bunch of units. Here's a mortar. So they're going to be able to carry a mortar into battle. Does not have a reduced side. Here's another mortar. So it looks like they have mortars. I'll put those there. Looks like the NVA don't have any form of tank or heavy artillery, but they do have those single mortar teams. Here I'll go ahead and look at a couple of these VC markers. Some of these are just, here's an example of that long-range bomber I was referring to that you'll notice was used to relentlessly bomb the North. So kind of cool. They have some explosions there going off. Here are those VC units. Once again, look like a nacho chip or a tortilla chip. But then you turn that over and there it's a 1-1 unit. There are others. So one of the interesting points of this game is you're going to not know what the strength of units are as you go into a fight. This is a 2-1 unit versus a 1-1 unit. And they're all like that. So they've got a hidden side. You can see there's a dummy unit. This is called bad intel. So it looks like a VC out in the jungle. Put it out there. You send out a fire team to attack and destroy or sweep. You flip it over and realize, uh-oh, bad intel. There's nothing there. So that's kind of a quick look at a majority of the units and counters. I think they're functional. I actually like the use of color. Enjoy the light green, the blue, the salmon or pink and then the maroon or dark red. I think they're going to really pop on the board and stand out. Map's okay and functional, but I think those colors work well together. I'm going to go ahead and show you the cards now, or examples of cards. And I have not read the rules on this game other than online, so I do not know exactly how all of these cards work. But here's an example. It says Campaign Zone 2, and I am assuming that this can be played in Zone 2, which is here. Campaign Zone 4 refers to the Mekong Delta. Mekong Delta is obviously at the south part of Vietnam. So here's an example of those cards. You can see they have operations points or command points there. This is a 3. They have different text for events or things that will happen. So you can see these are mostly 3s. Here's a 4, command hunt. They call them RPs. Here's a 5. And you'll notice they are blue and they are red. So the red cards are going to be allied or aligned with the NVA and VC. And then the blue cards will be aligned or allied with the US. So there's kind of a look at those cards. They're nice cards. I would prefer to see these cards rounded. They have a nice back. I really actually enjoy that. I think it's a nice look. They're very sturdy and thick, bendable, yet they're not going to wear very easily. This game does not look like it's been played. Frankly, if it has been played, it's been played once, and I'm okay with that. You can sleeve these to make them last longer. You're going to need kind of an odd size sleeve. They're not very wide. They're kind of the normal height of a card, but not necessarily as wide. They seem to be thinner there. But neat looking cards. But once again, this is a card-driven game. You're going to draw a certain amount of cards a turn and then use those to activate your actions. You'll notice here is an example of a card that is a response. So this is a card that can be played by both sides, kind of like an event to either interrupt or do something outside of a normal phase, potentially. So that will be interesting. Love the art. I love the pictures. I love that they actually use real Vietnam War pictures. Those are great pics. I've seen most of these pics throughout my either readings or studying or in other games, to be honest. So very nice use of that art. I really like that. And this game is called Hearts and Minds because it's not just a war game. It's a game for the control of the populace and the political machine. So you're going to not only fight on the fields of battle in the jungles and in the deltas, but you're also going to fight on for the minds of the people. Certain actions I think will affect that, and I think that's something that's going to play into the game. So there's a look. The game also comes with a couple of dice, so that's nice. But yeah, this is a neat looking game. I'm very pleased with it. I think I paid, I want to say $35 for this. It was a used open copy. I don't think you can get this version at all on the market. I think I did see some second edition copies, but none of them were for sale or really affordable. So I just told my wife I'm okay with this. I don't know that they changed that many rules and that many parts of the game. But so there's a look at Hearts and Minds from, once again, Worthington Games. I'm excited. Once again, love Vietnam games, love card-driven games. So this is going to be a game that I think I'm going to enjoy. Also a game that Alexander and I will enjoy and most likely want to play more than once or several times. So there you go. There's a look at Hearts and Minds. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and like it. If you enjoy our channel, please subscribe. We always love new followers. And if you want more detailed write-ups, reviews, session reports, strategy guides, and articles, please go ahead and go to our blog, thePlayersAid.com. We try to post very often. In fact, I think we almost post too much sometimes. But, I'll spend time late at night when I can't sleep writing blogs, and I think or blog posts, and I think we try to do a good job of helping you understand how a game plays and how it feels and what is good about it. So there you go. There's a look at Hearts and Minds. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you in other videos. Thank you.